Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today in our study of 1 Samuel. Today we are in 1 Samuel chapter 14, and as we read the chapter yesterday, we realized that it is a long chapter, 52 verses, and there is a lot that is said and a lot that could be discussed in this particular chapter. But as we go through and examine some lessons from the chapter today, I want to key in on some of the details that are of the most importance in lessons that can apply to us and the way that we deal with our lives and the approaches that we take to our lives. And so I want us to notice three areas this morning that will help us in that particular area. Of course, the overall story for chapter 14 is that the Philistines have invaded Israel, and Saul's son Jonathan is going to take it upon himself to alleviate that particular problem from among the people. And yet, it's not going to go without consequence. So let's look at a couple or three things from this particular chapter. First of all, in verse number 6, we find Jonathan's attitude toward what he is proposing to his armor bearer about going to the Philistines and basically presenting himself and seeing what they do. But he makes this statement in verse 6. Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for nothing restrains the Lord from saving by many or by few. Jonathan makes this statement that nothing restrains the Lord. There is nothing that is going to keep the Lord from helping them if he desires to do so. It's not a matter of the number of men. It's not a matter of the armaments that they have. Remember, going back to chapter 13, that armaments are a problem for the children of Israel at this time. So it's not a matter of how well they are armed, how well they are trained, how many men there are, any of those factors. Rather, it is a matter of whether or not the Lord is on their side. And Jonathan here makes the statement that the Lord can use however many he wants, many or few. The Lord will not be restrained if this is what he desires to do. And so Jonathan sets up a plan by which they will approach, and they will hopefully know what the will of the Lord is for them. And the Lord works with them and helps them to defeat the garrison with only 2 men. And they are going to go up against more than 20. As the word gets back to Saul of the fact that Jonathan is missing and the Philistines are beginning to work on the run, Saul, in verse 24, is going to give an oath as they prepare to go into the battle. Saul does not consider this to be a problem at the time. As a matter of fact, he's trying to motivate his men, and he is trying to ensure that they see the importance of following all the way through to the end. Remember, Israel does not have much of a standing army. These are not full-fledged professional soldiers. As a matter of fact, many of them are ones that have just come straight in from their towns and from their farms to help Israel, and many of them have been in hiding, and they have already been running from the Philistines at this particular juncture. And so Saul is going to make this oath in verse 24. He says, "Cursed is the man who eats any food until evening, before I have taken my vengeance on my enemies." He forbids the people to eat over the course of the day while the fight is ongoing. They are not to stop in order to eat. They are not to take a break. They are to continue on with the battle and to continue chasing the Philistines until the end of the day. Now, this is going to be a very tiring and a very harrowing set of events for the day, especially for those who have not been trained for it. And yet Saul's promise is that whoever does not will be cursed and that he will be put to death. The problem comes in verse number 27, because Jonathan wasn't present when the oath was given. He wasn't there when the promise was made, and so Jonathan is going to stretch out the end of his rod and dip it in a honeycomb and put his hand to his mouth. He's going to eat from the honeycomb. And it's going to make him feel better. And it's going to make him more able to continue on with the pursuing of the Philistines throughout the course of the day because there's food in his belly. Jonathan is later going to be told what his father has said. And he is going to respond in verse 29 by saying that his father has troubled the land. Not intentionally, not willfully, but rather that his rash judgments in trying to do things in this way are going to, in essence, cause consequences for Jonathan. Because Jonathan knows his father is not going to back down. And when Saul finds out what has taken place, he tells Jonathan he will surely die because he's going to keep his promise. It again serves to us as a reminder that we need to be careful about the promises that we make. We need to be careful about the oaths that we undertake because they are serious, they are important, and we will be expected to uphold them both before men and before God. But that also leads us into our third area for this morning. Because down in verse number 45, when the people hear about what it is that Saul intends to do to Jonathan because of his actions, even though he did them out of ignorance, even though he did not know about the order that his father had given, the people speak up and they help Jonathan. And they tell Saul in verse 45 that Jonathan will not die, that he is the one who has accomplished this great deliverance in Israel, and that the Lord has been with him. He has worked with God. He has not been off disobeying Saul intentionally, and he has not been going off and working against the work of the Lord. He hasn't done any of those things. He has done everything that he is supposed to do. He just simply didn't get the order from Saul. And so, people stand up for Jonathan and tell Saul that he has no business killing Jonathan for simply doing what he was supposed to do. And the people will rescue Jonathan from his fate before his own father. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes they're out of ignorance. Sometimes it's because we don't know that what we're doing is forbidden, or that we don't know that what we're doing has been spoken against, whether it be by God or whether it be by the rules and the laws and the ordinances in various other places. And when we do, there are times where there are consequences associated with those things. And sometimes those consequences can be mitigated by those who are willing to stand in our corner, and by those who are willing to help in time of need. There are times where people just simply make a mistake. And it is important to remember that one of the attributes that we are supposed to have is mercy. Mercy is not giving someone what it is that would rightly be deserved or justly be deserved based upon a certain circumstance. Something that you could do, but ultimately it isn't in the best interest of anyone to follow through on. That's called mercy. Jesus would make a statement in Matthew chapter 5 that says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." The people here are going to extend mercy to Jonathan, and it is not going to be forgotten. So these are some of the things that I found in 1 Samuel chapter 14. I hope that they are beneficial to you. There are many other things that we could talk about, but next time we are going to come back, Lord willing, and we will begin examining 1 Samuel chapter 15. But until then, I hope you have a great day.